Stop scrolling right now because in the next 60 seconds, you're going to learn three words that can make someone think about you nonstop, and it's far easier than you ever imagined. These aren't cheesy pickup lines, they're triggers for the mind. Most people try to impress with actions, gifts, or compliments, but it's the words you say that quietly loop in someone's mind for hours. And once you know these three words, you'll see the effect instantly, like a mental magnet pulling attention without effort. If you want me to reveal exactly what these three words are and how to use them at the perfect moment for maximum effect, hit that like button, subscribe, and stick around until the end. I promise it's worth it. The first magic word works because it taps directly into the subconscious, triggering emotional associations without the listener even realizing it. It's not the word itself that has power, it's the mental and emotional connections that the brain builds around it. Think about how certain words or phrases can instantly transport someone to a memory, a feeling, or a desire. They bypass logic and go straight to emotion. When used correctly, this word acts like a seed planted in the mind, one that grows subtly over time every time it is remembered. The key is context. It must be introduced naturally in conversation, not forced, so that the listener doesn't feel manipulated. When you say it with confidence, in the right tone, it signals familiarity and emotional resonance, which the brain interprets as significance. This is why timing and delivery are crucial. If the word is used casually, almost as an aside, it sparks curiosity and reflection. Your presence becomes linked with the feeling that the word evokes, whether it's intrigue, excitement, or a subtle sense of closeness. Over time, every recollection of that word triggers the same neural pathways, reinforcing your presence in thought. The listener begins to replay scenarios in which the word appeared, often without realizing it, mentally looping back to you and your interaction. Scarcity enhances this effect. If the word is rare and used deliberately, its impact increases, creating anticipation and mental focus. This word doesn't rely on flattery, charm, or persuasion. It leverages the natural way the human brain processes emotional cues and associations. It essentially programs attention without force, creating a kind of magnetism that feels effortless and organic. Subtle, confident repetition strengthens the association, turning casual use into a mental trigger. Every time the listener thinks of that word, their mind automatically connects it to you, embedding your presence in thought patterns that continue long after the conversation ends. Mastering this first word is about understanding psychology, timing, and emotional resonance. It is the foundation for the other two words because it establishes the initial loop, the spark of curiosity and attention that sets everything else into motion. Once this first trigger is understood and used correctly, it creates a powerful subconscious pull that makes someone think about you without effort, making you a constant presence in their mind. The second magic word works by activating curiosity and the mind's natural craving for resolution, and this is where the real mental looping begins. Unlike the first word, which creates an emotional anchor, this word sparks intrigue. It teases the brain in a way that demands attention. Human minds are wired to notice gaps in information and seek closure. When something is hinted at but not fully explained, the brain keeps returning to it, attempting to solve the puzzle. This word is powerful because it doesn't reveal the full picture. It drops just enough information to ignite a sense of wonder or a what happens next feeling. Delivered naturally with the right tone and timing, it plants a scenario in the mind, and the listener starts imagining possibilities, constructing stories where you are the central figure. The beauty is that the mind does all the work. You don't have to manufacture interest. You simply create the spark. Every subtle repetition reinforces this mental loop because each time the word is recalled, it triggers the unresolved curiosity you've implanted, which is inherently pleasurable for the brain to chase. Scarcity amplifies the effect. If the word is used sparingly, it becomes more valuable and the brain focuses on it more intently. Context is everything. The word must feel casual, almost incidental, so that the listener doesn't sense manipulation, only intrigue. When combined with body language, vocal tone, and timing, it can make interactions feel magnetic. People begin thinking about conversations, replaying the moment the word appeared, and trying to guess meaning or implications, which keeps you present in thought continuously. Over time, this creates a psychological loop where the listener is drawn back to you mentally, imagining scenarios or replaying your voice, expressions, and gestures. Unlike traditional attention-grabbing tactics that rely on external validation or effort, this works because it leverages the natural functioning of curiosity and problem-solving in the human mind, turning it into a self-perpetuating thought cycle. Mastering this second word is about subtlety and timing. Used correctly, it transforms casual interactions into lasting mental impressions, making someone return to thoughts of you automatically without even realizing it, building a magnetic pull that feels entirely effortless, yet incredibly compelling. The third magic word works as the emotional anchor, the final piece that ties the previous triggers together and ensures your presence continues to replay in the mind over and over. While the first word creates an emotional spark and the second ignites curiosity, this word connects you to a positive internal state, a feeling the listener naturally wants to return to. The brain remembers experiences not just for the events themselves, but for the emotions they carry. And this word leverages that principle. When spoken in the right tone at the right moment, it subtly associates you with comfort, excitement, thrill, or even a sense of intrigue that feels pleasurable. This is why delivery is everything. It must feel effortless, natural, and confident because the emotional impact comes less from the word itself and more from how it is framed within your presence. Scarcity amplifies the effect. Used too often, the magic fades, but sprinkled strategically across conversations, it reinforces the link between you and that positive emotional response. Every time the listener recalls the word, the brain automatically reactivates the associated emotion, which in turn brings thoughts of you back into focus. Over time, this creates a feedback loop. The word triggers emotion, the emotion triggers memory, and memory triggers curiosity and attention, looping endlessly. The subtle genius of this third word is that it doesn't demand conscious attention. It operates beneath awareness. The listener isn't aware that their mind has been programmed to revisit you, and that makes the effect far more powerful than overt attempts at attraction or attention. It transforms fleeting interactions into long-lasting mental impressions, ensuring that you remain present even when absent. Combined with the first two words, this anchor word completes the triad, creating a psychological pull that is almost magnetic. Once mastered, it enables someone to think about you repeatedly without effort, embedding you in thought patterns that feel entirely natural, pleasurable, and self-sustaining. The magic lies not in manipulation, but in aligning emotion, curiosity, and memory so that your presence lingers effortlessly in their mind, making you unforgettable. The fourth step isn't another word, but the way you combine the three magic words to create a seamless, irresistible mental loop. And this is where the real power emerges. Individually, each word has its effect. The first sparks emotional resonance, the second triggers curiosity, and the third anchors a positive feeling. But when woven together naturally in conversation, they form a psychological rhythm that the mind can't ignore. The key is subtlety and timing. They cannot feel forced or rehearsed because the moment someone senses manipulation, the effect collapses. Instead, these words must flow as if they are part of ordinary speech, dropped in context with casual confidence, so that the brain registers them without resistance. When delivered in this pattern, the first word plants the seed, the second creates a puzzle the mind wants to solve, and the third links the puzzle to a pleasurable emotional reward. This combination sets up a self-perpetuating loop. Every recall of the first word triggers curiosity. The second word pulls the mind deeper into mental scenarios, and the third ensures those scenarios feel good, reinforcing the desire to replay them. Scarcity and unpredictability amplify the effect. Used sparingly, the words become more salient, creating anticipation and subconscious attention toward you. The mind starts recalling moments of your interaction without conscious effort, often out of habit, mentally reconstructing conversations and imagining possibilities. This loop is invisible, effortless, and subtle, and it creates a presence that extends beyond physical proximity or direct interaction. Unlike traditional attention seeking behaviors, this approach doesn't demand energy or persuasion. It works quietly through psychology, turning casual dialogue into a magnetic experience that the brain can't stop replaying. When mastered, this combination makes someone consistently return to thoughts of you long after the interaction has ended, establishing a mental pull that feels entirely natural and compelling. The fourth step is the understanding that magic doesn't lie in isolated words. It lies in the synergy of emotional spark, curiosity, and positive reinforcement, creating an unbroken cycle of attention and thought that loops endlessly, ensuring your presence lingers effortlessly in someone's mind. The fifth step focuses on delivery and tone, because even the most perfectly chosen words can fail if they aren't communicated in a way that the mind accepts and remembers. The brain doesn't just process the words themselves, it registers how they are said. The cadence, the confidence, the subtle inflections, and the pauses all signal importance and emotional weight. When using the three magic words, the goal is to make them feel casual yet significant, as if they are part of a natural conversation rather than a scripted attempt at influence. This balance creates what psychologists call a fluency effect, where things that feel effortless are more easily accepted and mentally replayed. The first word must be delivered with a calm confidence that subtly emphasizes emotional resonance. The second word with a slightly teasing or intriguing tone that sparks curiosity, and the third with warmth or light intensity to anchor a pleasurable emotional state. Timing is critical. Dropping the words too quickly or too frequently dilutes the effect, while spacing them strategically allows the mind to notice, process, and loop each word independently. Nonverbal cues, eye contact, facial expressions, body language also enhance the impact because they reinforce the subconscious associations your words are creating. Even small gestures, a slight smile, or a tone of playful mystery can dramatically increase the brain's receptivity to the triggers. Scarcity again plays a role here. If your delivery is rare and intentional, the listener subconsciously prioritizes the words, making each instance more memorable. By mastering delivery, the magic words stop being just language. They become experiences that the brain links to you. Each time the listener recalls the words, it's not only the meaning that surfaces, but the emotion, the curiosity, and the intrigue carried in the original tone. This ensures that your presence is reinforced automatically, without effort, creating mental loops that repeat themselves long after the conversation ends. In short, delivery is the silent amplifier of the three words. It transforms them from simple vocabulary into a psychological mechanism that embeds you in thought, memory, and emotion, making the pull toward you irresistible and continuous. The sixth step is contextual placement, which is about knowing when and where to use these three magic words so they have maximum subconscious impact, because words alone don't create mental loops. The brain pays attention to timing, relevance, and emotional environment. The mind is constantly filtering stimuli, and if the words appear in a situation that feels ordinary, rushed, or irrelevant, their effect diminishes. The power comes from embedding the words in moments where the listener is already emotionally or mentally engaged. During a story, a shared joke, a subtle moment of intrigue, or a scenario that naturally draws attention. When the first word is placed at a point that connects to an existing emotional thread, it instantly resonates and becomes memorable. The second word, tied to curiosity, is most effective when the brain is primed to seek answers, such as during pauses, storytelling, or moments of suspense, because the mind automatically starts filling in the gaps, making you central to the imagined scenario. The third word, which anchors positive emotion, should appear when the listener is in a receptive or pleasant state, reinforcing the association between you and the good feeling. Contextual placement is also about rhythm and spacing. The words should never feel forced, clustered, or predictable. Unpredictability keeps the brain alert and engaged, which amplifies retention. Even environmental cues like tone of voice, eye contact, or a subtle smile enhance the context, providing nonverbal reinforcement that tells the brain this matters. Scarcity combined with strategic placement makes the words feel valuable and significant, creating anticipation and subconscious focus. Over time, the listener begins to mentally replay not just the words, but the moments in which they occurred, linking your presence to experiences rather than just phrases. This creates a natural, self perpetuating loop where your presence is remembered through context, emotion, and curiosity simultaneously. The genius of contextual placement is that it makes the mind do all the work. Rather than trying to force attention, you craft moments where the brain chooses to loop back to you again and again, embedding your influence subtly but powerfully in thought patterns long after the interaction ends. Properly timed and placed, these words become invisible anchors that turn fleeting conversations into long-lasting mental engagement. The seventh step is subtle repetition, which is what transforms isolated moments into lasting mental loops, because the brain reinforces what it repeatedly encounters, especially when tied to emotion and curiosity. The three magic words are most effective when experienced more than once, but not in a way that feels obvious or mechanical, because conscious recognition of repetition can break the spell. Instead, the repetition should feel incidental, natural, and unpredictable, like it arises organically within conversation or interaction. Each time the first word appears, It reactivates emotional resonance, reminding the listener of the initial spark. The second word, when repeated at different times, deepens curiosity and reinforces the mental puzzle, prompting the mind to revisit imagined scenarios. The third word strengthens the emotional anchor, building the pleasurable association with your presence. The power of subtle repetition lies in its ability to operate below conscious awareness. The brain notices patterns before the conscious mind does, which is why repeated exposure to the words in varied contexts creates a compounding effect. Scarcity is still key. The words cannot appear constantly or their impact diminishes, but strategically spaced repetition maximizes retention and desire. Subtle cues like tone variation, timing, or slight changes in delivery keep the repetition fresh and engaging, preventing it from feeling rehearsed. Over time, this repeated activation trains the mind to recall not only the words but the feelings, curiosity, and intrigue they evoke, embedding you into thought loops that run automatically. This creates a mental pull that continues even in your absence, as the listener recalls moments, replays conversations, and imagines scenarios where you are central. Repetition also builds familiarity without reducing intrigue. Each subtle reintroduction reinforces the connection between you and the mental experiences the words trigger. Mastering this step ensures that your influence is not fleeting but cumulative, turning casual encounters into persistent subconscious attention. When combined with emotional resonance, curiosity, and anchoring, subtle repetition makes the mind naturally loop back to you, creating a presence that is constant, effortless, and irresistible. It's the final step that turns magic words into a self sustaining psychological magnet. The eighth step is integration into natural interaction, which is about making these three magic words part of everyday conversation so that their effect becomes seamless, invisible, and self sustaining. The real power of the words isn't just in knowing them, it's in embedding them in a way that feels effortless, authentic, and aligned with your personality, because the mind reacts strongest to stimuli that feel genuine and unforced. If the words are delivered mechanically or appear out of context, the brain notices the artificiality and the loop weakens. Integration means combining the words with stories, casual remarks, humor, subtle observations, or moments of shared attention, so that the listener perceives them as part of natural flow rather than deliberate triggers. This step also involves pacing and rhythm. The words should appear at moments where attention is naturally heightened, emotion is engaged, or curiosity is piqued, so the mind forms stronger connections between the words, feelings, and scenarios. Over time, as you consistently weave the words into normal dialogue, they stop feeling like words to make someone think about you and start functioning as mental anchors, curiosity triggers, and emotional associations without conscious effort. Subtle cues, tone, eye contact, gestures enhance the integration, reinforcing the mental associations and making the experience richer and more memorable. Scarcity, timing, and variation remain important. You don't saturate interactions with the words, but you use them strategically in ways that feel spontaneous and meaningful. As a result, the brain begins to loop these moments repeatedly, recalling conversations, imagining scenarios, and linking the positive emotions and intrigue to your presence. Integration ensures that the psychological pull created by the magic words becomes durable, persistent, and unconscious, making you a constant reference point in thought without overt effort. In essence, this final step converts knowledge into mastery, turning the individual effects of emotional resonance, curiosity, anchoring, contextual placement, delivery, and repetition into a natural, continuous influence that keeps your presence alive in thought, creating effortless mental loops that sustain attention, intrigue, and desire indefinitely.